Do me a favor though. Look at your lens and not the screen. So it's no the other. Yeah, yeah, that's closer to it. Yeah, there. That's
That,
it. Yeah, that's it.
but don't look at you.
No, don't look there, please.
Thank you, Trevor.
Oh man, Jon Stewart, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
I've been doing press now for, it's got to be a week straight. Junkets and everything from the same space. And this is how I've been doing it. And for the first time since I've been doing this, someone had the decency, the kindness to go, you might want to look at the camera.
Yeah, but this is like, you know what? It's like it's the common new. It's like a thing people don't realize because our screens and cameras. I feel like someone needs to put them in line because this is not how we talk to each other. You normally look at a person.
I want to look at you. I want to do it like they imagined it in the science fiction movies in the 70s, where you would do the video call and your head and my head talking.
No. I've come to realize that like all the things that we learned from science fiction in the movies, it was very ambitious, but we've got like very, like if you grew up with poor parents, they would always bring you a very like cheap version of the cool thing you wanted as a kid. That's the future we live in now. So we were like, imagine if you could talk to someone through a screen. They're like, okay, you can't do that, but you can look off at them and seem like you don't know where they are and communicate effectively. That's basically what we do. Where are you right? Like, what is this? What is this room behind you?
I'm in my attic.
Yes.
This is the room when my children were younger. This was their playroom. And so they did a lot of doodling, or their cousins did, because this is where they would come up with their cousins. And then they grew up and decided, you know what? I'm just going to stay in my room, quarantine or no quarantine. And you're going to go up into the attic. So that's what we've done.
It's funny because like it's beautiful now that I know it was your kids who did that, but it almost looks like the same graffiti that's on like the Confederate monuments around America. It looks like you let people practice the graffiti at your house before they go to the monuments so they can get it right.
Antifa has infiltrated my attic. There's a big problem here. I'm doing the best I can, but they are rabble rousers. And as you can see, they have decided that this is the Berlin Wall, and they are going to take it down.
What do you make of all that? Like honestly, because I mean, this just like the Confederate monuments, like every statue coming down. I mean, it started with Confederate statues. It started with like racist people from history. Then we started just seeing statues coming down of like people who fought for the Union and people who fought against slavery and like. What do you make of it? Should we just get rid of statues? What's going on?
What you'll find is if you don't allow regular order to take down the statues that represent the insurrection that tried to destroy this country and preserve the institution of slavery, if you make that impossible to do through pleading, peaceful entreaty, and all that, you're going to end up with a spasm. Look, people shouldn't have, for 100 years, the statues are not from the Confederate era, they're from the Jim Crow era. They're from the era when they built them to say, just so you know, I know they let you go, but I just want to make sure everybody understands, like, we will still subjugate you. I hope that's, and bring fear into your lives. So, because these statues are not, people say like you're erasing our history, which by the way, I don't remember the conservatives during the Iraq War, when the Saddam Hussein statue fell in Baghdad. I don't recall Republicans at the time going, big mistake. You don't want to erase your history. That's your history. Leave it be. So, the plaque on the statue is not history. It doesn't say, this motherfucker thought that he should fight a war to ensure that he could have slaves on his plantation, that he could still benefit. And then we put it up to instill fear in the people that we kept as slaves and their descendants. So this should have been done in short order by a normal functioning society years ago.
You say something interesting, and that is a normal functioning society. It feels like normal, functioning, and society are three words that are very quickly slipping away. All over the world, people are dealing with the same thing, that is coronavirus. But I honestly believe that America might be the only country where it's seen as a political issue as opposed to a pandemic. Do you know what I mean? It seems like something you can choose to believe in or not, or where you stand politically defines whether, like, the legitimacy of the virus. Whereas in other places, they argue about how to deal with it, but the virus itself is not like a political issue.
And there are arguments. Listen, we're not the only country that's arguing about how much to limit freedom of movement and having, in Italy, you saw, big demonstrations and protests against, trying to confine people to a certain extent. But I think a reasonable view of it would be it's not being done for the sake of tyranny. We are actually facing something where tens of thousands of people are dying. And it's, if you think about it, like, it's like preparing for a hurricane. When a hurricane is coming, there's always those people that are like, government's full of shit. I'm not going to board up my windows. But this is a hurricane that if we prepare for it, the hurricane weakens. And that doesn't happen normally. But because in this country now we've set up parallel universes in the multiverse that the right lives in, this is an infringement. It kind of, the mask thing is what blows my mind, because, surgeons wear them in operating rooms. And they don't wear them because, they drive Volvos and sip chai tea and listen to NPR. Like, they wear them, so I just want to say to people on the mask thing, like, great. Next time you're having an operation and the surgeon comes in with washed hands and a mask, just be like, don't be a pussy. Don't be some liberal puss. You take off that mask and you unwash your hands and you stick your paws in my open gaping wound. Because apparently sanitary conditions are a liberal myth.
I knew you, obviously, I mean, we knew each other when you were leaving the Daily Show. You were like, I'm getting into different things. I'm taking time with my family. I'm going to do a movie here or there. It was interesting for me to see you do a political movie. I was like, John, aren't you just going to get away from politics altogether? But then you made a movie that wasn't just about politics, but it was almost about the game that is beneath politics. I was shocked the first time I went to New Hampshire for the primaries. And I was sitting with, like, the aides of these politicians, and even the reporters, and they were like, oh yeah, they hang out, they chat, they go out for drinks afterwards. And I was like, what do you mean? They hate each other on screen, and then we hate people on each other's behalfs, and I see it happening in the country, but they are friends, and I didn't understand that concept. And it seems like that's what you're showing people in this movie, is that we don't realize that the WWE of politics is not as real as we think it is. And we're willing to die for the Undertaker, but the Undertaker is just a guy named Bill who goes home with Triple H and they carpool. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's not draw the Undertaker into this. First of all, he is a marvelous wrestler and was undefeated at WrestleMania. So let's not, until obviously Lesnar. Listen. I didn't want to make a movie about the political moment.
Right.
I feel like that's the Daily Show. And that's what you guys do so well, is you do the weather. Every night you come out and you talk about the political moment. And you bring the funny and the insight and the context to the political moment. I really wanted to think about it as the climate and the system, and that idea that we have kind of created this complex of media and moneyed interests and politicians, and they all work and enrich each other, and there's very little accountability, and it grows in, those types of symbiotic structures don't dismantle themselves. Here's this system with its own inertia and energy and self-interest and incentives to entrench itself and to grow itself, and it's really at odds with any relevant facts on the ground. Or the system we have in place to elect people is almost working antithetically to the system we have in place to try and govern people. And we don't really have a robust governance system, but we've got an incredibly enriching and robust and corrupt and corrosive system of elections, of campaigns, and of influence.
So do you see a change? Do you see an end where you go like, oh no, it's something is going to happen that shuts this all down?
where I'm optimistic is there are such talented, committed, energized people taking the reins of these really rotted out husks of institutions. And you get the sense that they're committed to rebuilding them in a manner that is going to create a sturdier foundation. And, you know, so much of this country, what you learn from this is, and the pandemic exacerbates it, you know, what's essential? Well, it turns out all the people in this country who are essential to its functioning are the lowest paid. And how do we, you know, for many years, we've sort of gone on this principle of, if we just take care of the investor class, we'll get a taste, you know, and I don't say we because I'm now up there. But the pendulum has swung away from valuing work. And we have to figure out, you know, and they always talk about, the people that talk about trickle down are always about freedom and liberty. Well, what's more liberating than not having to worry about your health insurance being tied to your job, or working really hard but still having to use food stamps? Like, that's not freedom. And we have to find a way to make those in this country who are essential, to give them more liberty. And more liberty comes from being able to live a life that is built on granite and not on quicksand.
I could talk to you forever, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us again. I hope everyone watches the movie. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're loving your family and your kids and enjoying yourself.
And let me say to you, may I have a moment?
Yeah, of course.
I'm so impressed by everything. Oh, I'll say it up here. I'm looking at your face, but I'll look into the camera. I'm just so impressed by everything that you guys are doing, and the insights of the show, and the hilarity of the show, and it's magnificent. And I just wanted to tell you, I know what goes into making it, so I am impressed for the right reasons, because of how hard I know that it is and how beautifully you're doing it. The only thing I would say is, do you have to do it so handsomely? That, the handsomeness, if I may, feels a little bit like a personal attack. The other stuff I love, but if you could do the show without dimples, I'm just saying.
I will pass these comments on to management, and we'll see what we can do. Jon Stewart, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I hope to see you again. Look after yourself.
You look after yourself too. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye-bye. How do I, now I don't even know how to hang up, so.